It was around 11:47 p.m. when I heard the unmistakable crunch of tires pulling into our gravel driveway. I was in the kitchen, leaning against the counter with a lukewarm cup of decaf in one hand and the sound of the dishwasher humming in the background. We live in a quiet suburb just outside Raleigh, North Carolina, trees everywhere, nothing but porch lights and the occasional stray cat after dark. Jessica was finally back from Chicago. 2-day leadership conference, she said. Panels, networking mixers, a breakout session on redefining corporate synergy, whatever that means. I'd spent the past 2 nights eating reheated pasta, falling asleep to crime documentaries, and trying not to think too hard about how distant we'd become lately. And now here she was. The headlights flashed through the kitchen window before shutting off. A few seconds later, the front door opened and Jessica stepped inside, humming. She looked different. A little too bright, too fresh for someone who'd just taken a late flight. She wore this long beige coat I hadn't seen before, her hair perfectly curled, makeup still in place. And the smell hit me almost immediately, floral, sweet, but sharp. Not her usual vanilla sandalwood blend. Something new. Expensive. "Hey, stranger," she said, smiling like nothing in the world was wrong. "Did you miss me?" I got up from the stool and gave her a hug, instinctively inhaling. There it was again. The perfume. "You smell different," I said without thinking. She laughed. "Oh. Yeah, I ran out of my usual and borrowed a spray from Dana. It's too much, right?" "Just different," I said, trying to keep my voice even. I pulled away, but something white sticking out of her coat pocket caught my eye. A receipt partially folded, one end peeking out like it wanted to be found. I didn't mean to be weird about it. I just reached for it, more out of habit than anything. "What's this?" She looked down, eyes flickering to the paper in my hand. Her reaction was half a beat too slow. "Oh, that? Ha! That's from dinner last night. Totally forgot I shoved it in there." The receipt was from Luciano's, a restaurant downtown. I'd heard of it, Italian, candlelit, one of those places where you needed a reservation a week in advance. Certainly not where you'd end up by accident. I scanned it. Dinner for 2. Window table. One entree was a porterhouse, the other something called spaghetti al tartufo. And then there was the wine, 1 bottle of Cabernet vintage year listed next to the price, $1.20. "You and Dana really went all out," I said, trying to sound amused. "Romantic window seat, fancy wine." Jessica giggled and waved her hand. The waiter was such a character. I think he thought we were a couple. It was a networking dinner, but we were seated so close, he just assumed. He kept trying to upsell us on everything, even flirted a little, at least with Dana. Poor girl was mortified. I raised an eyebrow. "So you ordered the wine?" "No," she said quickly. "God, no. That's the billing mistake I told you about. He left it on the check by accident. Dana and I were laughing about it all night. We didn't drink a drop. I even have pictures, see?" She pulled out her phone and flipped through some images. Sure enough, there were 2 pictures, one of a truffle pasta dish, the other of Dana doing a goofy smile with her chin resting on her palm. I had to admit it looked legit. Still, something didn't sit right. Jessica was always meticulous. Why would she forget a $200 receipt in her coat? Why use someone else's perfume when she packed her usual? And why hadn't she mentioned any of this when I asked about her night yesterday? She kept talking, animated and breezy, telling me how the keynote speaker looked like a younger Morgan Freeman and how her hotel's pillows were so bad she used a folded sweater instead. I laughed when I was supposed to, nodded when she paused. But my brain was playing catch-up, rewinding the last few days. She had barely answered my texts during the trip, just short replies. "Busy. Talk later. All good. Exhausted." That was about it. She hadn't called once. Not even good night. Which was odd because she always called on work trips. Even if it was just to rant about how bad the conference coffee was. "Anyway," she said, shrugging off the coat and heading to the fridge. "You wouldn't believe how bad airplane wine is." I almost kissed the flight attendant when she gave me ginger ale. I managed to chuckle, but my hand was still holding the receipt. Dinner for 2. Window table. Vintage Cabernet. It looked so curated, so romantic. Not something 2 HR consultants would share while discussing policies. But I didn't say anything. Not yet. She poured herself some water, then turned around. "You're awfully quiet. What's going on in that brain of yours?" I shook my head, stuffing the receipt into the junk drawer by the sink. "Just tired, I guess." "Glad you're back." Jessica walked over and kissed my cheek. "Me too. Let's do something this weekend, yeah? Just us." I smiled, but it felt forced. "Sure. That sounds nice." Later that night, she fell asleep quickly. I watched her for a while. Her face calm, her breathing slow. And still, something in my chest wouldn't relax. That quiet little voice, barely audible but persistent, had started speaking. And I couldn't unhear it. The next morning, Jessica was up before me, humming in the kitchen like nothing had happened. She made coffee, cracked eggs into a pan, and even danced a little while waiting for the toast. I sat at the dining table, trying to match her energy, but my thoughts were somewhere else entirely. Something wasn't right. At first, I told myself I was overreacting. A receipt and a strange perfume weren't proof of anything. But that little voice from the night before, the one that whispered doubt while she slept soundly beside me, was louder now, more insistent. I sipped my coffee and studied her from across the table. She looked normal. More than that, she looked happy. Relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in months. I wanted to believe it was because of the conference, a change of scenery, time with a friend. But the idea that it was something or someone else had already begun to root itself deep in my chest. Later, after she left for work, I found myself drifting around the house like a ghost, drawn to details I hadn't thought much about until now. I checked the coat again, the one she wore last night. Empty now. Receipt gone, I'd left it in the junk drawer. Her perfume, the one I knew, wasn't in the bathroom cabinet. Instead, a small sample-sized bottle sat in its place, label partially scratched off, some high-end French name I couldn't pronounce. That wasn't hers. Jessica didn't do samples. I opened her laundry basket and stared down at a lacy red bra I didn't recognize. Not her usual. Bold. Something out of a catalog, not our dresser drawer. I lifted it out like it might explain something, but it just left me more confused. More suspicious. Then the memory hit me last month. She came home from a work trip in Denver. I remember because she sent me a photo from her hotel room saying the view was ugly as sin. But something had nagged at me then too. The room looked too upscale for the hotel she claimed she was staying in. A small detail like the headboard, tufted leather, fancy lamps. I brushed it off at the time. But now it clicked. That wasn't a standard room. That wasn't the hotel she booked through the app we shared. There were other moments like that. Moments I hadn't wanted to label as anything serious. Like the time I heard her phone buzz late at night and she smiled at the screen, then quickly locked it when I walked into the room. Or how she'd started taking her phone with her into the shower, something she never used to do. Once, I even heard her giggling in the guest room on a call. When I opened the door, she said it was Dana again, laughing about some coworker drama. Maybe it was. Or maybe I'd walked in on something else entirely. And it wasn't just technology. She had started dressing differently, more effort even for casual outings. I told myself she was just trying to feel confident. Everyone goes through phases. But in the back of my mind, I remembered how long it had been since we'd had a proper date night. How distant she'd seemed, how her phone had started to become a permanent fixture in her hand. She smiled less with me. But the way she lit up when texting someone else? That had started to feel deliberate. I sat back on the bed and exhaled slowly. This wasn't paranoia. This was a puzzle. And I was finally starting to see the edges. I went through our shared calendar on the hallway corkboard. She'd started writing down business trips more often: Chicago, Phoenix, Houston. At first, it seemed like her career was taking off. But now I wondered, were these even real trips? Were they what she said they were? One particular entry caught my eye, a conference in Nashville marked for the following week. I hadn't thought anything of it until now. She'd barely mentioned it. No excitement. No details. Just a black marker note: Nashville, Monday through Wednesday. That's when I sat down at my laptop and started digging. I searched the name of the conference she claimed she was attending. Found the website. Found the speaker list. Her name wasn't there. Her department wasn't mentioned. There wasn't even a track that lined up with her field. I refreshed the page. Maybe I got it wrong. But I didn't. It just wasn't adding up. Jessica had never lied to me before, not that I knew of. But what if she had? What if the person I trusted most was now weaving a new reality just out of my reach? I opened our photo library. Started scrolling. The picture from Denver, yep, there it was. A quick reverse image search of the room showed a match from a luxury boutique hotel 2 miles away from the one she claimed. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. I closed the laptop and sat in silence. This wasn't just about a receipt anymore. It wasn't about one night or one conference. This was a pattern, a carefully constructed series of half-truths and distractions. A memory surfaced. Last Christmas, I gave her a silver necklace with her initials. A simple thing, nothing fancy. She wore it almost every day until about 6 weeks ago. I asked about it then, and she said she'd misplaced it at the gym. I bought that answer. But now I pictured her removing it before meeting someone else. Someone who didn't need to see a husband's initials around her neck. The realization hit hard. I'd been in denial. I wanted so badly for things to be normal that I ignored the mounting evidence. I let her charm and breezy explanations override the signals my gut had been screaming for weeks. Months, maybe? That evening when she came home, I tried to watch her differently. Not as my wife, but as someone I didn't quite recognize anymore. She asked how my day was and I smiled and said, just work stuff. She kissed my cheek and headed to the bedroom to change. I noticed she didn't bring her phone with her, not until I glanced toward it. Then she came back and picked it up before disappearing behind the door. That's when I knew. This wasn't just suspicion. This was certainty. Jessica was hiding something from me. Maybe not everything. Maybe not yet. But something real. Something that had changed the way she moved through her life without me noticing until now. And whatever it was, I wasn't going to let it slip through my fingers again. Jessica left for the gym around 6:15 p.m. that Thursday. She was wearing her navy leggings, black tank top, and the new white sneakers she claimed were on sale, but I'd seen the charge on our card. Full price. Expensive. She waved from the doorway and said, back in an hour, like nothing was wrong, like our lives hadn't become a maze of secrets and polite deflections. The moment the door clicked shut behind her, I stood still for a few seconds, listening. Car door. Engine. Gravel. Then silence. I waited a minute longer just to be sure, then walked quickly to the guest room closet. Jessica had an old laptop she barely touched anymore, a silver MacBook we used to share before we each got work-issued ones. I remembered it mostly sat untouched these days, except when she couldn't find her tablet or wanted to stream something to the TV. It was stored in a padded sleeve beneath a pile of scarves. I pulled it out feeling ridiculous. I wasn't the snooping type. Never had been. But things were different now. Too many loose threads. Too many strange silences and hurried explanations. I wasn't here to prove something wrong. I was here to see if I'd been right all along. I opened the laptop, half expecting a password prompt, but there was none. The thing booted up slowly, the fan whining as it came to life like it hadn't been touched in weeks. The screen finally flickered on, showing a cluttered desktop. Icons everywhere, *TS, old work docs, PDFs with names like Flight Confirm and Hotel_2024. I opened the Documents folder. Nothing out of the ordinary. Tax files. Travel itineraries. Some stray Word documents. But then I saw a folder named Documents_2. The name alone felt like a red flag. Like someone trying not to draw attention while doing the opposite. I clicked it open. My stomach dropped. There were *TS. Dozens of them. And message logs. Some in green and blue bubbles like iMessages, others copied into Word files. Every file was labeled with a date or a name, many of them with Joel. Joel? I clicked the most recent one. A *T of a text conversation, timestamped just 2 days ago. Her contact name was saved on his end as J. Sunflower. Joel, counting down the hours. I've missed you. Jessica, me too. I couldn't sleep last night thinking about Chicago. Joel, same window table? I'll book it. Unless you want to try the rooftop. Jessica, rooftop sounds perfect. God, I can't wait to see you again. I stared at the screen for a long time, my breath catching. Then I clicked another file. More *TS. Messages from previous trips. Joel talking about a night in Dallas, about how Jessica had looked in that black lace. Her saying she wanted to wake up next to him, not alone in a hotel bed. There were inside jokes. Nicknames. Even a picture she'd sent from a hotel mirror wearing the same bold lingerie I'd found buried under a pile of laundry last week. I opened a Word doc titled January_Nashville. It contained a full transcript of a conversation. Jessica, if you decide to leave her, what would we even do? Joel, we go to Mexico. You and me. Start over somewhere warm and stupidly romantic. Jessica, you're crazy. Joel, I'm serious. I don't want to hide anymore. You shouldn't have to either. Hide. They were hiding. And I'd been the one they were hiding from. There were more photos, her in hotel robes, her at dinner with Joel, his face cropped, but his hand in hers, *TS of calendar invites she hadn't put in our shared planner. Some were dated as far back as 6 months. That meant this had been going on far longer than I'd feared. This wasn't an affair fueled by confusion or one impulsive night. This was deliberate. Repeated. She had feelings for him. They had plans. I felt cold all over. Not angry. Not yet. Just numb. My heart didn't even race, it sank. The way it sinks when you know something's broken beyond repair and you still have to finish the day pretending otherwise. I backed up the entire folder onto a flash drive I kept in the desk drawer. Then I ejected the laptop and placed it back exactly where I found it. No fingerprints, no missing files. I was methodical. Careful. Jessica came home 40 minutes later, all smiles and sweat. That gym needs better AC, she said, peeling off her jacket and tossing it on the chair. I swear, I lost 3 pounds just from cardio. I nodded and handed her a glass of water. She kissed my cheek, told me to remind her to book her Nashville flight. Can you believe they're making me go on a Monday? She said with a laugh. I didn't laugh. Just smiled. That night, while she showered, I opened the flash drive on my own laptop. Read every word. Every picture. Every I miss you and I can't wait to see you again. They echoed in my skull like the ticking of a clock. I finally knew. Beyond doubt. And the worst part? I wasn't surprised. She'd left a trail. Maybe not on purpose, but carelessly. Or maybe because she didn't think I'd ever look. I used to trust her so completely that the idea of checking her laptop would have felt absurd. But trust is funny like that. Once it cracks, every little thing becomes a clue. When she came to bed, she curled up beside me and said, "Hey, I love you, you know?" Her voice soft. Familiar. So practiced it made my skin crawl. "I love you too," I said, staring at the ceiling. And I did love her. Or maybe I loved who she used to be. Who I thought she still was. But that person didn't exist anymore. Now I was looking at a stranger. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed next to Jessica, listening to her even breaths, the occasional shift of weight as she turned in her sleep. Everything about her looked peaceful, familiar. But that was the part that disturbed me most, how effortlessly someone could lie to your face, whisper "I love you" at night, and still be texting someone else between meetings. I had enough proof now. The screenshot, TS, the photos, the messages. A part of me wanted to confront her right then, shake her awake, demand an explanation. But I knew what would happen. She'd cry, deny, spin another joke about a waiter's billing mistake or Dana's latest drama. And I wouldn't be able to prove the intent, only the words, the images. She was good at scrambling. At making just enough confusion to twist the truth out of focus. No. If I was going to deal with this, I had to be smarter than her. Quieter. That morning, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in nearly 4 years, Eli. We used to work together in IT security at a financial firm. Eli was one of those guys who could make a smartphone talk back to you in 10 languages if he wanted. I told him I needed help with a sensitive situation and that it had to be discreet. No questions. He paused, then said, "I assume this isn't about malware." "It's personal," I said. "I just need to see what she sees. Phone messages. Everything." Eli didn't even ask for a name. "Bring me her device and give me a day," he said. That evening, while Jessica was in the shower, Bluetooth speaker blasting some indie playlist, I slipped into the bedroom, grabbed her phone from the nightstand, and turned off autolock. Just long enough to install the silent sync app Eli had created. I had to re-enter her passcode once, a code I knew by heart. The sync program ran silently in the background. Invisible icon. No notifications. Nothing out of the ordinary. By the next morning, every text message she sent or received was copied in real time to a secure portal Eli set up. I could read it all from my tablet. It was like opening a window into her second life. That first day, the texts were casual. "A work message from Joel, can't stop thinking about you. That photo last night ruined me." Jessica responded, "You're going to have to be more patient. Nashville's coming." That same afternoon, while I made her favorite pasta for dinner, she texted Joel, telling him it's another HR convention. Leaving Monday morning, back Wednesday. Same hotel? Joel replied with a thumbs-up emoji and a heart. She smiled at her phone during dinner. Said work was just so draining lately. I watched. I documented. I created a digital folder on a password-protected external hard drive and saved every message, every screenshot *T. Then I went a step further. I installed a dashboard camera in her car, motion-activated, low-profile, with GPS logging. Just in case. Over the next few days, I built my case like a prosecutor preparing for trial. On Monday morning, she left early with a suitcase, kissed me on the forehead, and said, "Don't burn the house down while I'm gone." I watched her drive off from the upstairs window. Within 3 hours, I had the hotel reservation confirmation in my inbox. She hadn't booked under her name. But Joel had. His name, his card, 2 guests, 1 king-size bed. That evening, the messages came in rapid bursts. Joel texting her about room service. Jessica sending a mirror selfie in the same black lace lingerie from the laundry. Him replying with heart emojis, phrases that made my chest ache even though I'd stopped being surprised. I synced the hotel's public parking camera feed, accessed via Eli's contact, and confirmed the timestamp of their check-in. There they were. Joel in a gray blazer, Jessica in a fitted white blouse and heels, laughing. Arms brushing. No pretense. I didn't confront her. Not yet. By Wednesday, she was back. Kissed me, said the flights were a mess. Showed me a blurry photo from the conference floor, a recycled image from the event's public website, not something she took herself. She smelled like expensive shampoo and faint regret, but she smiled like everything was normal. Let's do date night this weekend, she said. I feel like we've been out of sync. Out of sync. I almost laughed. I nodded. Yeah, sounds good. That night, after she fell asleep, I uploaded everything to a hard drive and walked it into a local bank the next morning, opening a safety deposit box. I stored the device there under my name, wrapped in a zippered pouch and placed inside a plain cardboard envelope labeled tax records. Just in case. I'd learned long ago in security work, never keep all your files at home. The next few days I studied her. Watched how she smiled, how she moved around the house, how she checked her phone in the bathroom with the door half closed. And I waited. Because this wasn't just about catching her. It was about reclaiming control. Jessica had created a lie so stable, so repeated, she had no idea it was already unraveling. She talked about planning a summer vacation. Mentioned booking a beach house in Charleston, just us. I told her that sounded great. At work, I scheduled time off in July, just like she did. I began consulting with a divorce attorney, one who specialized in high-asset separations and digital evidence. I explained everything. The lawyer, a calm woman named Grace, said if even half of what you've shown me checks out, she's going to have a hard time in court. I nodded. I'm not trying to destroy her, I said. I just want to get out clean. With dignity. Grace smiled. That depends on how much dignity she tries to keep pretending. By the end of the month, I had a dossier that read like a movie script: trips, texts, photos, GPS logs, synced messages, even Joel's social media pages showing overlapping dates and travel check-ins. I didn't just have evidence, I had a timeline. Jessica, meanwhile, was planning a 4th of July barbecue. She invited friends. Posted on Instagram about life's little moments. She had no idea. That night, while she slept next to me, breathing slow and steady, I stared at the ceiling again. But this time, I wasn't confused. I was just waiting for the right day to flip the story back to the beginning and show her what I'd really known all along. It happened on a Thursday. Not because anything special marked that day, there was no anniversary, no symbolic hour. It was simply the day I ran out of patience. I had prepared everything the night before. Printed **TS of texts, hundreds of them with timestamps circled. Photos including ones Jessica thought she'd hidden in cloud storage. The hotel confirmations, parking lot footage stills, receipts, a GPS log from her car, even the duplicate flight itinerary she booked under a different email alias. All of it. I laid each item on the kitchen table like a surgeon arranging instruments. There was a cruel order to it. A rhythm. The sun was just beginning to dip behind the trees when she came home, keys jingling, phone in one hand, her other wrapped around a smoothie. She was wearing a white sweater and jeans, casual and radiant. The kind of effortless look she always pulled off, like she was too tired to be beautiful but ended up being it anyway. Hey, babe, she said, walking into the kitchen. You wouldn't believe the traffic on A. She stopped. Her eyes landed on the table. Everything was laid out piece by piece, the way one might pin butterflies in a display case. There was a long pause. The kind that stretches until your stomach forgets how to sit still. She set the smoothie down slowly, carefully, like it might spill over the truth. Her eyes scanned the paper trail in front of her. No questions yet. No denial. Just silence. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Then came the smallest sound, her exhale. Short. Sharp. A signal of impact. She reached out and picked up a photo. One from the hotel lobby. She was smiling in it, unaware. Joel's hand was on her lower back. The camera angle was high, discreet, but her face was unmistakable. She started, but the words snagged in her throat. Still, I didn't speak. I only watched. She flipped through more, the texts, the dinner receipt from Nashville, the car GPS trail, the hotel's guest log printout with her alias beside Joel's. A photo of the black lingerie, same one from the texts, the mirror selfie, and our laundry bin. When she reached the final page, a printout of a message Joel had sent her just a few days ago saying Nashville was perfect. If you ever leave him, I'm still all in. Her knees seemed to weaken. She sank into the chair across from me, fingers trembling. I finally spoke. How long? Her lips parted, but nothing came out. Her face was pale now. Paler than I'd ever seen it. How long, Jessica? I repeated. My voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Her eyes met mine for a flicker of a second, then dropped to the table. It started last fall, she said. After the Phoenix trip. I nodded. That was nearly 9 months ago. And since then? I asked. Chicago. Dallas. Denver, she said, almost whispering. And Nashville. I already knew that. But I needed to hear her say it. She looked up again. It didn't mean anything, she said quickly. It was a mistake. He was just someone who made me feel. She trailed off. Wanted? I offered. She nodded. And I didn't? I asked. Tears sprang into her eyes. It wasn't about that. It was about me. I felt lost. Invisible. Like we were living in two separate lives that barely touched anymore. So your solution was to create a third life. One you didn't invite me into. Brian, she said, reaching out, but I leaned back. No, I said. Don't touch me. She froze. Her hand hovered midair before slowly retracting. Please, she said, her voice cracking. I know I messed up. I know I betrayed you. But I want to fix this. I do. I'll do anything. You lied to me every day for almost a year, I said. You slept beside me and texted him under the covers. You deleted evidence. You planned vacations with me while arranging hotel rooms with him. You bought new clothes, lingerie you didn't wear for me. You brought him into our lives. Into my life. Her tears were falling now, quick and ungraceful. I was stupid. I was selfish. But please, please don't end us over a mistake. Mistake? I asked, standing. No. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary or saying something cruel during a fight. What you did was a choice. 100 choices. Over and over again. She sobbed into her hands, rocking slightly in her chair. I walked over to the cabinet and opened the pantry door. From behind the dry goods, I pulled out the suitcase I had packed for her. She hadn't seen me do it. I did it the night before when I already knew this conversation was coming. Inside was everything she would need for the next few days. Clothes, essentials, her charger. The rest would come later. I placed the suitcase beside her chair. Her eyes widened. What is this? I want you out tonight, I said simply. No, Brian, please, don't do this. Don't throw us away. I'll go to therapy. We'll do counseling. I'll block him. I'll quit my job if I have to, just please don't end this like this. I'm not ending anything, I said. You did that already. This is just me catching up. She tried to stand but stumbled back into the chair. You're serious? I'm filing, I said. The lawyer's already seen the evidence. You'll be hearing from her by Monday. Her jaw trembled. You don't mean this. I do, I said. I turned and left the room. Walked upstairs into what used to be our bedroom and closed the door. Not slammed. Just closed. I heard her crying downstairs for a long time. Heard her moving around, collecting herself. At some point, the front door opened. Then closed. When I finally walked back down, the suitcase was gone. And so was she. The morning after Jessica left, I stood in the kitchen staring at her empty coffee mug still sitting in the sink. The silence was enormous. Heavy. I didn't feel triumph or relief or even anger anymore. Just a strange, dull quiet. Like the house had exhaled. Jessica tried to reach out immediately. Texts poured in by noon, long messages, short apologies, late night, please just talk to me, please. She even left a handwritten letter in the mailbox 2 days later. Said she couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, that she made a mistake and wanted to fight for us. But I wasn't interested in a war. The battle was already over. I'd met with my lawyer again. The evidence, meticulously organized and time-stamped, made the proceedings swift. Jessica didn't have much room to negotiate. Grace, my attorney, made sure of that. There'd be no drawn-out litigation, no ugly smear campaign. Just the clean cut she never expected. Then came something I hadn't anticipated. Joel's wife reached out to me. Her name was Amanda. She'd seen some of the texts by accident. Joel left his Apple Watch on the charger while he showered. The screen lit up and there Jessica was. She contacted me through a mutual connection after putting 2 and 2 together. I didn't hesitate. I sent her everything. A week later, a video surfaced online. A screen recording of Joel and Jessica's texts, voices narrating the messages. It wasn't me who posted it, but someone did. The caption, How to Ruin 2 Families in 6 Months. It made its rounds in the HR community. Someone even reposted it on LinkedIn before it got taken down. Jessica's career took a nosedive. The big promotion she'd been hinting at was pulled. Clients dropped off. A major contract she'd worked toward for a year was revoked. Word spread faster than she could control it. I didn't celebrate. When her parents called me to hear my side, I told them politely to ask their daughter. And then I blocked their number. The months that followed weren't glamorous. I moved out for a while, lived with my cousin Dan in Iowa. A quiet town, smaller than I was used to. He handed me a sledgehammer and pointed at a half-demolished barn behind his property. Therapy, he said. So I tore things down. Literally. When I wasn't helping Dan with renovations, I volunteered at the local animal shelter. I read again. Started running. I stopped flinching every time my phone buzzed. At first, I wanted to disappear. Hide behind routine. But then I met Haley. It was at a local art exhibit, one of those quirky events with handmade soaps and overpriced paintings. She stood next to me in front of a sketch of a burned-down house, her head tilted slightly. "Funny how ruins make the best art," she said. We started talking. She was divorced too. An illustrator. Came to town for a creative residency. Her story wasn't identical to mine, but the shape of it was familiar: betrayal, confusion, starting over. We didn't pretend with each other. No small talk. Just honesty from the start. We met again the next week. Then again. No pressure. No performance. With Haley, I never had to decode a message or guess what wasn't being said. That ease, it was like fresh air after months of holding my breath. One night, months later, as we watched the sun dip below the cornfields, she asked if I'd ever go back. To her? I asked. She nodded gently. "No," I said. "That chapter's done." And I meant it. Jessica's betrayal had gutted me, but it also cracked something open. It forced me to see the truth, to stop clinging to what was convenient or familiar. And in doing so, it gave me a second chance. A better one.